talk to basketball personalities. Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Next Man Up podcast, the podcast where we talk to basketball personalities and chat about the latest in the Philippine hoop scene. Let's get to it and check out the Next Man Up. First of all, you can catch all the other episodes on Spotify. Just search Next Man Up podcast and also on YouTube at Globally Ballin. And just to remind you guys, the Globally Ballin Network, who's responsible for us being here, has its own website with their own content. You can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Catch the other shows of the network where we talk about sports. And in the Eternity of Basketball episode 148, they had Jho Jho Villapando on the show, Eternity of Basketball. They talked to a lot of basketball legends in the Philippine hoop scene. And in the Who the Heck Are We podcast at episode 116, they had Julian Schwarzer Garcia on the show. And as mentioned earlier, the Next Man Up podcast is on YouTube and on Spotify. Make sure to share and subscribe on those platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Globally Ballin to check out all the other episodes and all the other shows of the network. Now, before we get going, this podcast is not a solo show, but a two-man game between me, Diego Dario, and my guy, former teammate in college, Mr. Hot Takes, Gelo Vito. How are you, my brother?
How are you, man? I'm good. I'm good. Happy Monday to all our listeners. So this is gonna be a great episode. We'll be having a very interesting guest. So just tune in.
Yes, sir. So before we head on to our guest, Jels, what did we have last episode? What did we talk about? Who did we talk to? I think we had a debate on the Jamie
Yeah.
Malonzo trade. And who did we talk to again? We had a
We
writer.
we had the writer. Our guest last night. Last episode was Ian Clarito, a
That's right.
writer for Tiebreaker Times and for the Manila Bulletin. There was a debate between you and our guest about the Jamie Malonzo trade, and it was a good one. Both perspectives of from a player and the marketing and the business side of that trade. So it was a really great episode.
That is right. And for tonight's episode rather, we are gonna have a very special guest from the B League, a head coach in the B League, currently the head coach of the Nagoya Dolphins, but the former coach as well of the Shiga Lake Stars. And Jello, who were the Filipino hoopers that played in those two teams that are very famous actually with all the fans now that are listening?
So right now, this coach is coaching one of our best scorers,
Mm-hmm.
best probably one of the best scorers, which is Bobby Ray Parks, and another one was is currently playing for Shiga Lake Stars, the one and only the phenom, Kiefer Ravena.
Yes, sir. So we'll talk about our guest's experience with coaching some of these guys and also pick his brain about international basketball and all his experience coaching. So, without further ado, we welcome Coach Shawn Dennis on the show. Coach Shawn, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you for the time.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure, and I don't do too many of these, but when I found you from the Philippines, it brought back a lot of memories from when I visited way back in 1988 as a player, and
Wow.
I know the passion that the Filipinos have for the game of basketball, and I share a similar passion, and there's nothing better than discussing it.
And basically, coach, basketball is like a religion here in the Philippines. And I know you've had an experience in playing in front of the Philippine crowd. And I think we're kind of having We have some technical difficulties here, but I think we have Coach. Coach, we're back on the show. I'll go straight to it, Coach. What is the difference for you between Philippine basketball and Japan basketball since you've been coaching in the B League for quite a while now?
Look. One of I think is the passion the Filipinos have for the game. And for a lot of the players, it's a way to make something of themselves. And to you know, I would assume, just from my experience, and like I said, it was over 30 years ago I was there, but driving around and seeing all the kids, with just a hoop on a light
That's right.
pole and
Yeah.
playing, and the crowds around watching. Obviously it's a passion for all the Filipino kids to one day, represent the Philippines and the national, international stage, to play in the PBA, or for some are even now starting to dream of the NBA, and others probably dream of playing in Europe and playing internationally, and what a great thing to be able to do if you can achieve those goals.
So, Coach Sean, what is it like? Talking about passion, talking about the drive that Filipino ballers have. Uh, how evident is that when you started handling Bobby Ray and Kiefer?
Look, it's, unfortunately, I never got the chance to personally coach Kiefer, but I was certainly involved in bringing him to Japan. But I had moved on to Nagoya by the time he actually got to play in Shiga. But with Bobby, he loves the game, and it's this is an opportunity for him, I think, to step outside of perhaps his father's shadow a little bit, and leave his own legacy. And we talk about that a lot, about him trying to create his own legacy for himself on the international stage. And I'm really happy for him now that he's back playing with the national program, and I think that's really important to him, and his roots in the Philippines.
And Coach Sean, you mentioned it earlier that you had a hand in trying to get Kiefer Ravena to play for the B League, for the Shiga League Stars. I mean, there have been a lot of talks in you know the Japan teams and other teams around the world trying to poach these players from the Philippines. What are your thoughts on this? And also, how was that experience trying to bring in Kiefer Ravena here, one of the first players um, from the Philippines to actually play in Japan?
Look, I think you need to use a different word than poaching. I think it's just part of the international game now. We're very lucky with the internet and the ease of which you can see players from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so because Japan had the Asian rule, just like Australia, and other countries throughout the Oceania and Asia countries,
Right.
you want to look at the best players that you can try and find to help your team. And with both of these guys, I saw them as players who could come in and be better than a lot of the Japanese players, and they are. They're both in the upper echelon of local players, and so you want to approach those people and see if you can get them to come and help you. And interestingly, when I was coaching in Australia, I was coaching the Townsville Crocodiles, and Bobby Ray was on my uh, on my radar way back then. That was about
Wow.
8 years ago,
Wow.
and it
Wow.
was unfortunate that the team in Townsville went bankrupt and had to close the doors, or I probably would have tried to get Bobby Ray way back then. I think he was playing in the Asian League back then. He actually wasn't playing in the
That's right.
Philippines.
Yeah.
Um, so you're always on the lookout, and this type of thing happens all over the world. A lot of Argentinians who have been a great nation in world basketball go to Europe. A lot of Australians in the late 90s and early 2000s started to go to Europe because they saw it as a chance to make more money, to possibly play in better competitions. They saw it as a pathway to maybe bigger and better heights. And, currently, Kai Soto is in Adelaide playing,
That's right.
in the Australian NBL. And today, the Adelaide 36ers played the Phoenix Suns, and they had an amazing win. And, that put Kai on the radar of the NBA teams, which I believe is his ultimate goal. I don't know him personally, so for some of these kids, it's about them wanting to put themselves on the international stage, and I think that's only a good thing for Philippine basketball, because that's only going to show lots of kids there's great opportunities out there, and these players are going to get better by experiencing different countries and different styles, and then they bring that back home through their national program, and hopefully they bring that back home like a lot of the Australian kids have done now, gone back to the Australian NBL, which is now considered one of the best leagues outside of the NBA in the world. Yet only 10 to 12 years ago, it wasn't in that league. So this is a good thing, I feel, to have players experiencing this. And I will always encourage any player I deal with to go back home and pass on those experiences to younger players, and help evolve the game in your own country.
That's right. Very well said, Coach.
So, Coach, with someone who helped
I'm
bring
sorry,
in.
guys. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Is that clear now, Coach? Hello. So we're kind of having.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you, Coach.
we can hear you, Coach.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
So currently, I think it might be your. I think it might be your
I'm just
headphones
seeing
or.
the question here. Who contact them?
Yeah.
Generally
Right.
speaking, contact is made through the agents. We don't, unless you know somebody in the Philippines. But my dealings have always been through an agent contacting me saying, they know a player in the Philippines. Would I be interested? I go away then and do some homework, and if I think that player can help me, then I'll pursue that player and talk to that player. And as I said with Bobby, I knew from quite some time ago, and I was very interested in him. With Kiefer, I didn't know Kiefer, but we had a conversation, and when I spoke to some different people I knew who had coached him particularly at the All Asia camps and things like that, it made my decision very easy. And I think the job he's doing at Shiga is outstanding. He's an outstanding leader. He interacts with his teammates amazingly, and he would be a dream teammate and a great kid to coach. And Bobby's the same. He's such a good natured young man, and with such great potential, and it's fun coaching him, trying to bring that potential out.
Yeah. So, Coach, how about other Filipino players in the B League?
I look at
Uh,
those two guys, and Dwight Ramos and Kobe Paris. They're both with great potential. I never spoken to them, and I don't know their circumstances and why their decision was made to come to Japan. But I think with the way the B League's improving year on year, the coaching's improving, the standard of play is improving. The imports level is improving across the league, and Dwight in particular is potentially an amazing player, and I think he's got the world at his feet if he can continue to grow. He's athletic, he's highly skilled. He has a toughness about him that I love, and which pretty much all the Philippine players do, which is awesome. But I think this young man, who I think he's only 20 or 21, he's very young. I think he's got so much potential, and it'll be great to see him evolve into a great international player that can help the Philippine team on the international stage. I think it would be just terrific.
Now, one of the rules here in FIBA,
You know,
I just want
the big thing for me is, whenever you bring in a foreign player, you always want to look for a point of difference, and with Kiefer, it was his playmaking ability and his ability to assist others. With Bobby Ray, I felt he would give us a great scoring punch and be a difficult matchup for a lot of the Japanese guards, which he is. He was terrific in our first two games over the weekend where we played Mikawa and had two really good wins. And Bobby's offensive game was really at its best. The area we're really working with him to get better. Um, if we can improve his defense, I think that's an area I'm trying to focus on, and I know that will allow him to go back to his national team and be much better. But normally whenever you bring in, a foreign player over a local, you're looking for a specific point of difference. And, certainly with Bobby, his scoring ability and his shooting ability from great range is a great asset to us.
All right, coach. So one of the rules that we're very interested in trying to ask you, coach, is the Hagop rule in FIBA, which is basically getting a passport before 16 years old for a lot of the international players here. This question was actually asked by one of the listeners and one of the fans here, Francis Gonzalez, um, on the pod. So I'll be sending this question to you, coach, and let's see if you'll be able to answer it.
I'm not fully aware of it. It's not something that I'm fully aware of. I do know that in Japan, if you get actually, I am aware of that. If you do get it, you can represent both countries. I know there's been some, it's how Australia were able to get Matisse Thybulle to play for Australia at the last Olympics from that rule because he gotten his passport before he was 15 years of age, and that makes the argument with him right now is does he qualify as a changed nationality or can he qualify actually as an Australian citizen? And right now, FIBA's saying he has to be a changed nationality. So I think that fight's still going on. But,
Right.
there's been some other players like CJ Bruton, who's actually coaching Adelaide 36ers right now. He was born in the US, but moved to Australia as a young boy with his father, and they've lived there forever. And he was able to use that and was counted as a full Australian citizen.
So, coach,
You know,
being a coach
I
in
believe it.
Japan.
I think one of the things that drove Australian basketball to become the powerhouse it is now is having the changed nationality players start playing, and then having those players start to have their own children in the country, and the better the competition gets, the higher and harder locals have to train and play, and what you see is great growth in your game, and you look at Australia now, and in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of Americans playing. And there was this worry that, it would take the place of local players. But what it did was drove all of us to work harder to come up with better development programs. And now you see Australia, at one stage, I think we had 11 players in the NBA, and for a country of only 25 million people and where basketball's not the number one sport, that's an amazing achievement. And I think, anything that can help develop the level of play is only going to help the local players become better. And I'm all for that type of thing.
So, coach, you're talking about the current B League season, and you guys are up 2-0 with back-to-back wins over Mika Seahorse. So your next game is against Ryukyu, where Alan Durham plays. Oh, he's a former import here in the PBA, and he was a former guest also on the
Um,
show. So, what are your thoughts on him?
I love Alan. I was fortunate to coach him in Shiga for a very short time, and I tried for a couple of years to get him back, but unfortunately, I was never able to do it. Normally because we didn't have a big enough budget for him, but he's my type of guy. He's physical, he's strong, he's versatile. He can defend big guys, he can defend small guys. He's a very underrated passer here in Japan. I love his game, and would love to coach him again one day if that opportunity ever happens. But who knows? You never know what goes. But but he's a great human. That's the best part about coaching Al. He's such an easy guy to coach, and his teammates love him and love playing with him, and he gives everything he's got for his team. And yeah, I just think he's a terrific player.
And lastly, coach, I just want to ask your message to the Filipino fans who are following the PBA and following the international game here in around the world, basically. So this is my question for you, coach. or what's your message to them and who are following the international games?
Look, my message is, enjoy it because there's the, the the Filipino players are now starting to spread out around the world, and for a country that just loves basketball so much, what an amazing opportunity. You can watch games from all around the world, and it's only going to keep growing as the players get better. And there's nothing better than being able to do that. And I remember being able to watch, the Australian guys who now play in the NBA, the Australian guys that played in Europe, and how exciting what that was. And for me as a coach, how much more I learnt by watching the different styles of games, and then those players coming back and helping our national program, and helping our locals, and I think that's the most exciting thing. And for a country that loves this beautiful game that we're all involved in, there's nothing better than being able to watch the different styles and watch your own countrymen do very well in other leagues. That's exciting and a lot of fun.
And very well said, Coach. I really appreciate the time that you had for us, for all the Filipino fans who are listening. You're having a bit of technical problems here, but you were still able to get some of the conversations going. So thank you so much, Coach, for the time. Really appreciate it, Coach.
Anytime, gentlemen. Loved it. Always a pleasure to talk this beautiful game.
And of course, that was a great conversation once again. And we are about to talk to just the two of us, but also to the fans here. If you guys have thoughts on what Coach just said, all the things that he said about international basketball and Philippine basketball, the players that are playing in the B League. So if you guys have thoughts, make sure to comment down below. Share your thoughts with us on the comment section on YouTube, maybe on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. But after the guest, we're gonna be talking about the wild UAAP weekend that we
Yes.
had, Jello, and you covered that in the Smart live stream. I covered
Yep.
one game, the UP LaSalle game, in
Yes.
on One Sports. And first of all, let's talk about the Ateneo win over FEU. That was amazing. That was
Yeah.
a crazy, crazy
That was a
game.
crazy game.
Did you cover that game?
I actually covered that game yesterday, and uh, there was so much glaring thoughts or glaring ideas with that game. So first off, during the first quarter, you already knew that Ateneo was going to show up, and they call this their revenge tour, and you already felt right from the get go that they're on a mission to get back that championship to Katipunan. But right from the second quarter, suddenly there's a shift when that second unit
Right.
of FEU came in, being led by Sahonia, and then that's where they started deploying this something that we haven't seen in a while from FEU. They were pressing the entire second quarter, which forced Ateneo to a bunch of turnovers. So the FEU and coach also knew that the second unit of Ateneo were very, very young. That was Paulie Garcia, Ketives, and all those guys. So they took advantage of that
Yes, sir.
inexperience, which gave FEU a 6 point lead at the half. But come second half, third quarter, this is where the championship experience and the veteran smarts of uh, Ateneo came into play. This is where they put in back their veterans and Ange Kwame, showing why he's the reigning MVP. PJ Andrade showing leadership, and let's take note about this guy, the guy who's wearing that jersey number 15, filling
Yes,
in that big
sir.
role for Ateneo, Fortsky Padrigao. 19 big points, mostly in the second half. He started facilitating, he started creating for everyone. He was giving up the ball and hitting that huge three-pointer in the fourth quarter to give the Ateneo that huge cushion.
I mean, when you talk about Fortski Padrigao, also just a reminder, pwede ka na rin pala mag-Tagalog if you want because Coach Shawn is not here anymore. But when grabe si Fortski Padrigao, man, a lot of people are surprised with his performance. But if you check social media, his former teammates, Ateneans who are in the PBA right now, sila Gian Mamuyak, Tyler
Yeah.
Teo, they are not surprised.
They're
They
not
weren't
surprised. Yeah.
surprised with Padrigao's performance. They probably have seen this in practice.
Yeah.
It's just that he wasn't given the opportunity and the minutes last season. But crazy stat line for this guy: 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists, plus 20
Plus
plus
20.
minus for him. And he also scored or assisted on 32 of the 49 points of Ateneo in the
Wow.
second half. I mean, that's
Wow.
crazy. Basically, give the ball to Fortski Padrigao and he'll do something about it. And ganito na siya, Jels, eh. Kahit nung high
Yeah.
school, he was this
Oo.
guy. He was
Yeah.
already this guy. He would shoot from the logo. He was teammates with Kai Soto, right? Like, this guy is him.
Yeah.
And I think that his talent was unleashed by minutes that were given to him, the opportunity, more usage, meaning the ball is in his hands
Yeah.
more here in this season 85. So the question is, now that Fortski Padrigao just exploded in the first game, how do you think the other teams will adjust in terms of trying to guard this guy? Because did FU did not expect this for sure from
Yeah.
Fortski.
I really feel that coaches should try to deny him the ball because, like what you said, his usage is so high and his efficiency is so high that when he has the ball, he can do whatever the hell he wants. He can pass, he can shoot. Parang ang nakita ko nga during that game, during that second half, nakita ko sa kanya na para siyang ano eh, para siyang conductor eh, na parang
Mm,
ilalagay kita
mm,
dito, ilalagay kita diyan. Pag pinasok ko yung bola, it's either shoot ka lang or makaka-create ka rin para sa iba. Para siyang nagche-chess kahapon nung pinapanood ko siya sa second half. And if and coaches and other teams should be aware na he's capable of doing those things.
mm.
High basketball IQ, ang dami niyang pwedeng gawin eh. Pinapakita niya yung high basketball IQ niya. So, one thing, take the ball away from him and we'll see how Coach Tab and Ateneo adjusts to that.
That's right. And tama ka, Jels, no? His IQ is, for me, advanced. Yung mga reads niya sa pick and rolls, he's not just reading the his guy and the roll guy.
Yeah.
He's reading the weak side. May mga skip
Yun.
passes siya to guys like BJ Andrade, to guys like David
Sean.
Defonso.
Dave.
David Defonso. Just a simple um, pass, forward pass or a skip pass. That's
Mhm.
high level point guard and
Totoo.
pick and roll skills or ball screen skills rather. So Fortsky is probably the next guy, next man up for
Yeah,
Ateneo. But
for
also
sure.
Gels. This is I've been thinking about this.
Oh.
You could say, kasi nung second quarter, FEU took advantage of the fact that Ateneo had young
Yeah.
guys on the floor. Talking about, you mentioned it, Kitevis, Gab Gomez, Paul
Yep.
Garcia, right? Do you think this Ateneo team, compared to the champion years,
Mhm. Mhm.
this Ateneo team is not that deep? So, if you look at the minutes, Padrigao, Andrade, Ildefonso, Ansquame, and Balungay had more
Mhm.
than 25 minutes each, and Chris Kuhn almost 20 minutes. And the other guys, 3 minutes, 8 minutes. This is not the usual sight for an
No.
Ateneo team.
No.
Usually, they spread it all out.
Oo nga
Sometimes,
eh.
back when, nung si 30, nagkakabatch natin, right? Pag regular season, he would even play 15 minutes,
15
20.
minutes,
But
18 minutes, marami na
I
yung
think
20.
I think because of the talent, na kulang yung talent ng Ateneo,
Mm.
mapipilitan sila to go short rotation, which is not the usual
The usual, yeah.
for Coach Tab, right? Kasi dati kaya niya eh, because
Yeah.
he had the talent. Now, he's probably 7 to 8 man deep.
Yeah.
So do you think kaya nila masustain to since they're not used to this kind of rotation until the finals? Compared to UP is I would say deeper. LaSalle's deeper than
Yeah,
Ateneo,
Lasalle's
but
deeper.
Ateneo
Yeah.
still has the system that they have. Pero more usage for the first five, six players.
Ito nga eh, I was talking with my partner during the coverage
Mm.
yesterday. Uh, we were so confused. I must say na Coach Tab didn't use his starters and hindi niya binalik sila BJ, sila
In the second
the
quarter.
guys. 'Di ba? Na parang
Right.
they were using the second unit, those young guys, and we were so confused about. Teka, Ateneo wasn't leading. FEU was making a run of their own, and then so parang kami. No, no. What I said was no. I feel that during this game, Coach Tab has something up in his sleeves. Kasi ang napansin ko, they weren't really getting blown out by that FEU run. Eh. By the end of the first half, they were just down 6. So yung mga down 6 na yan, parang wala lang sa Ateneo yan. But the biggest problem for Ateneo, the way I see it, is that yun nga, how deep how deep that 6-man, 7-man rotation will go.
Right.
Diba? That rotation that can only do so much.
I
Believe
agree.
me.
I agree. Now
Believe me.
for
Yeah.
FU, obviously, no question that this is LG Gonzalez's team with the departure of
Oh, RJ.
Abarrientos from the team. So LJ did what he had to do to keep this
Mm-hmm.
game close and even
Mm-hmm.
give them a winning chance. I think
Yep.
RJ had 19 points,
Yep.
19 points in the game.
Yeah.
Pero for me, parang nakukulangan nga ako with FU sa.
Yeah.
This is probably another topic, another episode that we should talk about. Like, I don't think FEU has a true point guard right now.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like LG is more of a two guy. He's a scorer. Patrick Sleep
Yeah.
played well. But let's move on to the other game. I think you covered this one also, the NU versus UE game. A lot of surprises actually for me, especially from UE.
Mm-hmm.
NU was the usual. It's NU was the usual team that they were back in season 84.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed defense. The pace is fast. They get easy buckets on the other side. I mean, John Lloyd Clemente finished with 15 points, 2 out of 4 shooting from three, usual
Mm-hmm.
JLC. John
Mm-hmm.
Figueroa, he's been like this, 13 points, and it's 4 players with double digits in NU. Talking about John Figueroa, Wilson Yu, Michael Malonzo, and JLC. One surprise for me though was Kian Baclan. This guy was scoring 30 points in the PBA D League back
Yeah.
when he was still with UST before transferring to NU.
Mm-hmm.
Kian Baclan had 8 points, 4 steals, 4 turnovers, but also 5 assists. Pero nakita ko rin to eh, Kian Baclaan is that guy. Para
Mm-hmm.
siyang si Fortsy Padrigao when using the ball screen, can go downhill, can pass to the weak side, can go
Uh-huh.
drop passes. So, what can you say about this whole NU team, Jello? And you said that they're one of the dark horses when it comes to getting into the Final Four.
I really think that NU being led by JLC is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
You need guys to step up. You need guys to step up like yung mga role players, importante yan. Ian Manansala did
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. Uh, Mike Malonzo, he really
Right.
finished the game well. Obviously, Kian Baklaan has to. I feel he has to mature fast if he really wants to. He
Well,
really wants.
sinabi naman niya, minention niya na medyo may gigil nga kasi first game opening day.
I mean
So,
that's a given. That's a given. But Jeg, speaking of Kian Baklaan, talking about Kian Baklaan, as a point guard yourself, what should he do to overcome that? Kasi he's the top point guard for NU. Ikaw,
mhm.
Jegs, na experience mo na maging top point guard
Mm.
for quite some time, di ba? So what do you think should he do in order for that jitterness, that nervousness? Because again, by the end of the day, he's a rookie. So
Yeah.
how can he overcome that?
Man, I think it's just part of the process. I mean, first game, first ever UAAP game, jitters will be there. And he
Yeah.
has to get used to that. That pressure will always be there from first year to fourth year. It's just a matter of trying to manage the pressure, the nerves.
Right.
And I think when he learns how to slow down a little after the ball screen, having that mid-range game, probably
Mhm.
that in-between game. Kian
Oh,
Baclan will be a problem for a lot of players and a
right,
lot of teams in the UAAP. But
right.
let's talk about UE naman. I did
Uh,
not expect them to actually like go close
yeah,
with
yeah,
NU. They also had that big third quarter where they outscored NU 20-9. And Kyle Paranada, my guy. This is my guy
sabi,
right here, just probably
grabe.
my height, same height. Loves to shoot the ball, but also led the team in assists with 5. Talk about this whole UE team. For me, Cal Paranada, bro, keep doing what you're doing. You are freaking entertaining with the Red Warriors. Hope you guys
Yeah,
get some wins here. But what are
yeah.
your thoughts on UE?
UE, even though they lost, you can
And I
see
know you
glimpse.
want to mention Luis Villegas for sure because he kind of plays
Oh,
like you, man. Yeah.
pero yun nga, kahit natalo yung UE yesterday, you
Mm,
would see glimpse of potential in them.
right.
Kumbaga, they're kasi ang ganda ng sistema na tinatakbo ni Coach Jack and yung the
Right.
system that he implemented into those guys. Kasi swak na swak. It's more of like
Right.
a five out stretch the floor type of offense. Fast paced, pass fast paced na half court sets and more movement off the ball. And
Mm-hmm.
kaya nagiging effective si the guy na sinabi mo, si Villegas.
Mm,
Who would have thought na he would suddenly jack up threes from the
right.
outside?
He was 2 out of 5 from 3.
He's lengthy, yes. And you wouldn't expect him na na he would take those shots. And ang isa pang glaring sa kanya is he picks his spots right. He
Right.
picks his spots right. He goes to his spots well na yung tipong kaya nagkaka-assist ng maayos
Mm.
si Kyle Paranada because he's the right spot at the right time. And
So, for
oo.
me, alam mo, Jess, nakikita ko dito sa mga UP fans, parang combination ni Gelo Vito tsaka ni Jerson Prado. Kasi may footwork din siya.
May
Okay
footwork
din
siya
yung
eh.
footwork ni Villegas sa loob eh.
Yeah.
Now, just since we don't have a lot of time, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next game. Can you call this the upset of the weekend? UST beating Adamson with Nick Cabanero scoring 33
Bro.
points. Baldavid debut in UST, dub
Bro.
right away. Just your
Bro.
thoughts, man.
I
Is this the
I
upset of the weekend?
bro, I covered that game.
Yeah.
And all I can say is wow.
Mm,
Like hindi lumamang ang Adamson. I was kind of expecting it's gonna be a
crazy.
lopsided game blah, 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 but yo, parang kasi I was also observing the coaching staff of UST, Coach Ballin, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Para lang silang walang pressure. Kahit yung mga
Right,
players,
right,
walang ka-pressure, and that's what
right.
led them to this win. No,
Mm-hmm.
nothing to lose, laro lang, and Nick Cabanero has the keys to UST. And yun ang pinakita niya.
I totally agree, man. And bro, you gotta give credit to Coach Bal for that game plan against Jerome Lastimos,
Yeah.
man. I did not expect that. Imagine, okay, number one, box and one.
Box and
You
one.
would expect that if you're Coach Nash, right?
Oo.
But meron silang scheme. Jerome Lastimosa would cross the half-court line,
Then
then
double nila kagad.
double team right away, and let the others shoot. And it worked for UST, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerome Lastimosa was caught off guard because he couldn't use
Mm.
ball screens, which is his strength. No clear daylight on trying to get threes and trying to get
Mm.
mid-range jumpers because they're all collapsing on him. He's basically yung game plan ng UST, score na lahat, wag lang
Wag
si
lang si
Jerome
Jerome.
Lastimosa. So, grabe, shout out to Coach Bal,
Yeah,
shout
Coach
out to
Bal.
Nick Cabanero, very
Yeah.
aggressive. He was just
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
spread ball screen, attack whoever, and
Yeah.
do whatever he wants on the court. And I think this was unleashed because Sherwin Concepcion is not
Oh.
eligible for this season.
Oo nga.
So sabi ni Nick Cabanero, okay, this is my
Okay.
team
Akin.
now. I'll just score 33 points opening day, career
Yeah.
high right away. But
Yeah.
you know what, Just actually Nick Cabanero, I asked him some questions and he messaged me the answers actually on IG because he has training at night.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Nick Cabanero, man, so humble. He
Really.
said that okay, I'll fill in the question. So I was like, what was your mindset on opening day? And he said, during that time, I was thinking of winning. That was all in his mind. Sobrang eager ko manalo. I'm just doing what I can to help the team. And thank God he gave us the win. And I asked him after the game, ano feeling getting a win right away? Then career high agad for you. Sabi niya, sobrang saya, sobrang blessed during that time. But he was just basically doing what the coaches were telling him.
Yeah.
And grabe yung
Solid.
UST
Grabe.
community and all that. So basically, bro, sabi niya pinakita niya lang kung sino siya and he's that guy. He shrugged after that clutch jumper and I
Bro,
mean,
Jegs,
crazy.
nagpakilala si Nick Cabanero. Basically, yun lang yun. Nagpakilala siya.
Tinanong ko rin si Nick, sabi niya, ano yung expect mo sa mga ibang teams ngayon na nag-33 points ka? Sabi niya, expected na i-double team siya or mas
Oh.
tighter ang defense sa kanya. Pero for
And,
him,
oh.
he'll just read the game plan. He'll just follow the game plan of Coach Bal.
And again, bigger assignment next game.
Mhm.
Kasi Lasal lang kalaban nila.
Yes, sir.
So it's gonna be a long day for him, maybe. Who knows? But
Mhm.
again, that's Nick Cabanero. But Jigs, speaking of Lasal, let's talk about the UP Lasal game, which
Yes,
you
sir.
covered. Which
Yes,
you
sir.
covered. Diba? So Jigs, I wanna know your kasi you were there in the venue. Jigs, I wanna know your thoughts on the vibe of that arena. Kasi syempre it was buzzing and a lot of expectations in that game. So just your initial thoughts about the vibe of that game.
Man, what do you expect from a UP LaSalle game? This is basically a rematch of the Final Four matchup in Season 84, where LaSalle almost took that final seat from the
Mhm.
Fighting Maroons last season. Now, for specifically that game, I thought LaSalle was ready for UP. They were ready for the sets of UP. They were ready to guard Carl Tamayo, especially in that first half. And they were ready for the press. They probably knew that JD Kagulangan, Maymay Kagulangan was not
Wow.
available. And they just smelled blood in the waters and just took advantage of it. So they forced so many turnovers in that first half. That's why they got, I think, a 10-point lead, at least in the second quarter for against the Fighting Maroons. But in the usual UP fashion, just comeback is real in the
Comeback
second
is real,
half.
bro.
Great adjustment by the coaches of UP, putting Carl Tamayo sometimes in the three spot and also bringing in Terence Fortea more in the second half.
Mm-mm.
I
Mhm.
mean, Terence Fortea was crazy. Very different point guard when it comes to when you compare him to Maymay Kagulangan. Maymay Kagulangan more of a pass first point guard,
Yeah.
but for Terence, he looks to shoot. I think he had I'm not sure how many points he had. I think he had double digits,
Yeah.
but he also had 9 assists.
Mhm.
So when you talk about Terence Fortea, for me he's one of the most entertaining players because he just jacks up logo threes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
hezzy to a pull up, ball screen straight to a three,
Mm.
random floaters. Sometimes iffy shot selection, but sometimes it works, and he's a great passer. So, and at the end of the day, it was Carl Tamayo. Just
Yeah.
like in the Final Four matchup last season, he just took over in the fourth quarter where he had 8 points in
Mm.
that quarter alone to get the victory for the Fighting Maroons. And that was the whole UAP weekend. Isang weekend pa lang yun just, pero grabe yung energy ng lahat ng
Grabe,
games.
grabe.
And we're gonna have more games on Wednesday, and that will be all 8 teams playing in one day. Kasi pag
Yeah.
Wednesday, it's a
All teams to
four
play.
four game day, right? 4 games in one day. Now let's move over from collegiate level
To
to
the
the pro
pros.
level. I mean, there were a lot of games that were played in the PBA, so we're gonna have to kind of um, talk about specific games and specific topics. Let's start it off with Rain or Shine upsetting Ginebra um,
Ah,
in opening week of the PBA.
Jigs. It was a lopsided match. Obviously, it was Ginebra scoring 71 points and Rainer Shine scoring. Sorry, let me check. Scoring 93 points. So it was it was a lopsided match. It was the debut of Jamie Malonzo. Jamie Malonzo scored 14 points in 36 minutes. 8 rebounds and 3 assists. And the second, actually the high scorer for Ginebra that day was obviously Justin Brownlee, scored 20 points, 16 rebounds and 5 assists in Justin Brownlee fashion.
But
But
that was a
the
bad shooting night for
but it
him,
was
though.
a
I think
bad shooting night. He
he
shot
shot less than 30.
28%.
Yeah,
No, he
less than
shot
30.
28.
Right.
Yeah, he shot 28%. And only those two who scored double digits, and the rest was just nines and twos
I
and
think LA
ones.
Tenorio and Scotty had like less than 5 points each.
No, they just scored two. Scotty
Right,
scored
see?
one. LA scored two.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Yang, that was also his, return to Rain or Shine. That was his first game for Rain or Shine after a
Yep.
long time.
Yeah.
But,
So. Mhm.
sobrang swerte ng Rain or Shine for catching the Barangay Ginebra Gin Kings in a
Oh.
shooting night like this, right?
Oh.
And sinabi nga
Oh.
ni Coach Yang na after the game, he was like, this is rare.
Yeah.
We are so lucky that we caught Ginebra in a bad shooting night. Pero never to mangyayari twice. And
Yeah.
that leads us to our next game that we're going to talk about, which is Ginebra winning over Meralco. Because Ginebra,
Total
they
opposite.
just started shooting. They just started making shots. Law of averages lang ba to, Jels? What do you think?
Dito nabuhay yung starters nila, yung core nila.
Mhm.
Justin Brownlee, a much better shooting night, 34 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists,
Right.
but 45% field goal percentage,
Oh.
almost 50,
Bumalik
di
na
ba?
siya no? Bumalik na eh.
Kasi parang,
From
di ba?
bricks to swishes again eh.
Suspicious di ba? And then a better night for Scotty Thompson, 15 points, 9 rebounds and 9 assists. Diba? In
Almost a
typical,
triple-double.
again, in typical Scotty Thompson fashion, 'di ba?
Mhm.
Parang lahat ginawa niya na naman. And Stanley Pringle eh, showed
Yeah,
up.
he was on fire from three.
Yeah.
I think he had four
Yeah.
threes in the first half.
He had 16 points, 4 of 7 three-pointers,
Mhm.
4 rebounds, and their starters scored double digits, and actually that was the story of that game.
Basically.
The starters and the core of Ginebra took over and took advantage of yung medyo alam mo yun, medyo sluggish, and kasi parang medyo na-throw off nga yung Meralco kasi nga na-cancel yung game nila because of
Right.
the storm. Um, Aaron Black scoring 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists. A close double-double for him.
Ooh.
Diba? Their import, Johnny O'Brien, in 44 minutes, he scored 31 points, 16 big boards, and 54% shooting. Diba?
Mhm.
So, and Alain Maliksi being the shooter that he is, scoring 20 points and grabbing 3 rebounds. And
Well, I
for the
think
rest,
the
yeah.
story of the game basically for the Meralco Bulls is them missing the services of Chris Newsom, their leader. I think he's out because of a calf strain that
Yeah.
he's had, and I think he's gonna be out for quite a while, maybe 4 weeks to 6 weeks,
Mhm.
and that's a couple of games for
Yeah.
Meralco. So that's the challenge for them, trying to play without their star, without their leader, and it has to be these guys stepping up for them to get victories. Talking about Aaron Black, Cliff Hodge, Alain Maliksi, and of course Johnny O'Brien, their import. Now, lastly, I want to talk about this team that has not lost yet this conference, the Bay Area Dragons. Um, First of all, your general thoughts before we go specific into what happened against Phoenix. But
Mhm.
the Bay Area Dragons, what are they doing right in the PBA? Parang for me, this is how I see the Bay
Mhm.
Area Dragons. They're a college team who has pro level talent because the way they run, the way they sprint, the way they execute their sets, full
Mhm.
speed every time, sobrang iba when it comes to the PBAs.
Oo.
Minsan yung PBA, medyo, they're may pacing, medyo mas relaxed, right? Trying to read. Pero ito, their execution is on point. Their defense is lagging pressure. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Bay Area Dragons still undefeated in this conference?
I really think that Bay Area Dragons is a blessing to the league, really,
Mm-hmm.
tell you honestly. And it's a blessing for Philippine basketball to see that kind of play, that kind of system, that I really think that is fresh in the eyes of many basketball fans. You know, yes, you have guys like Miles Powell who's scoring at
NBA
will,
talent, crazy.
NBA talent. But here's the thing. Even though he's an NBA talent, kasi ang talented eh, galing skumor, galing kumreate,
Mm,
but he still plays within their system.
right.
And kahit sabihin natin na he's gonna play like 4 games, I think he's gonna play his last game in their next game. I really think that this team will help us a lot in terms of growth of the system, growth of the league. And marami tayong lessons na makukuha sa kanila as viewers, as fans, and also as teams, di ba? So, but Jegs, speaking of specifics, nagkaroon ng something in that game. Speaking of Miles Powell, he had an altercation with Coach Topix Robinson. So,
Right.
sobrang it went viral na Coach
Yep.
Topix was about to go at it
Right.
with Miles Powell in that game. So, ako I got to talk with someone about close to what
Yeah, for
happened.
sure. What was it about? Because me, here's
Uh,
what I know. Okay,
yeah.
words were said,
Mm-hmm.
and Miles Powell said in an interview that he was just out there. He wanted to win. I think Coach
Yeah.
Topex apologized to him after the game,
Uh-huh.
and he apologized back. So no hard
Yeah.
feelings, but basically it was just heated.
Mm-hmm.
Basically all the players,
Yeah.
all the coaches just wanted to win, and we asked the coaches also like, what was that all about, right? And they basically just said there were a lot of emotions, a lot of energy towards
Yeah.
them as an international team, and the Philippine local teams trying to prove something to them that this is our home. But you
Mm-hmm.
have actually may mga kwento ka
Oh,
from like actual sources from Phoenix, from PBA, right? So what was it? What happened?
it was because Phoenix was down during that game, all throughout that
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of felt that no, we have a chance dito sa
Okay.
game na to.
Okay.
So in Coach Topic's ways of trying to fire up the team,
Mm.
ginawa niya na ng paraan. Inaway niya na daw si
Ah,
Messi just so he can fire up the players, just so he can like motivate or parang if kaya kong gawin to, dapat kaya nyo rin gawin. It's more of like that.
oh. Ano
Coach
kaya yung
Topix
sinasabi ni Miles sa kanya? Baka trash talk lang na nakaka-shoot siya, ganun.
probably
You
is
can't
just
guard me, or
it was just alam mo yun, typical basketball trash talk
yeah,
siguro
yeah,
na
yeah.
nahanapan lang ni Coach Topix ng butas na pwede nating ano ito. And that's what
Mm.
Coach Topix did in that game. Baga, papa-technical ako just so you guys can be fired up and maging okay lahat and maayos natin to, ganyan. And hindi siya nangyari, hindi siya naging okay. But again, nagkaroon ng mini run yung Phoenix during that time. After
Right.
that, it kind of worked. But then again, Bay Area Dragons stick to their system, played the game, and finished off with the victory.
Hey, I mean, that's great leadership coming from Coach Topex. I mean, that's part of being a head coach, trying to push the buttons of your players, knowing when to, hype them up, knowing when to fire them up, and knowing when to calm them down. And that was the decision made by Coach Topex Robinson. See, that's yun yung mga hindi natin nakikita as fans. Fans would say, "Oh, ano ginagawa ni Coach Topex? Guest team yan, dapat mabait tayo." Or what is Miles Powell saying to Coach Topex? And these things happen in a basketball
Yep,
game,
yep, that's
especially
true.
communication. I mean, for the fans, try to watch a live PBA game
Yeah.
and notice how many words are
Mm.
said inside that
Yep,
court.
tama.
Notice how much communication is there. Coaches trying to tell the players what to do, players
Yeah.
telling their teammates the coverages on defense, what sets
Mm.
they're running. Basketball, sobrang daming communication, Gels. You know
Yeah.
that, I know that,
Mm.
but we also had great communication in this episode, and we don't have a lot of time now, so we have to end this. But wow, just I mean, it's an honor talking to, of course, Coach Shawn,
Yeah.
and then talking about the UAP. We're all happy that it's back, and we have two
Yep.
UAP seasons in 1 year.
One
And
year.
of course, the PBA is back. So much basketball to talk about. And but Jello, any last words before we go to the listeners and to the fans?
To the fans and to our listeners, na hindi siguro na nakakapanood, na kayang manood sa PBA,
Oh,
kami na lang ang panoorin ninyo at pakinggan kasi we will be giving
yeah.
you a lot of takes, a lot of uh, things that you guys won't see in a PBA
Mhm.
game na pinapanood nyo lang sa TV, mga exclusive takes and exclusive things that's happening. Dito nyo lang yan mapapakinggan sa Next Man Up podcast. It's me, Gelo Vito, together with Diego, Dario, and again, guys, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Appreciate you guys. This has been the Next Man Up podcast.